I think Holly Summers is by far the most common example of when people realized that No More Heroes was truly something special, that Travis Touchdown was an extremely complex and fleshed out character. Because I think at this point, especially with the last fight, people kind of wrote off Travis's character motivations as simply being wanting to smash Sylvia. Like he just wants to fight and smash. Like he's like Goku. He doesn't have any real character depth. He doesn't have any real emotion. He doesn't have any real character outside of that. Holly feels like as a concept, it feels like she was specifically designed to sort of to go against that. Like her entire like build up is probably one of the greatest cutscenes in the game. I adore this scene in which Holly. We know very little about her at this point. Holly is of course a former military person from Sweden, I think. Again, so the opening cutscene. uh, I kept getting off track here. So Holly Summers, um, rather than like asking Travis, talking about herself, she instead like decides to focus on Travis as he approaches her for battle. Like Travis, do you like fighting? Yep. Do you like killing? Yep. Do you fear death? And it's supposed to be this thing that really makes Travis stop and think about what he's doing. It's supposed to be this really poignant, really philosophical question. Like Holly is trying to make Travis doubt what he's here to do. But instead what happens is that Travis is just like never thought about it. Like do you fear never felt it. Travis, all of these like questions, like all these really very real philosophical questions about the nature of what Travis is doing, his accomplishments, his goals, what they're doing there. This very real, very heavy stuff just comes off him. Like Travis just brushes past him, just rolls out, just rolls right on by. Like Travis does not give a shit. And Holly, Travis's response to these questions is to ask her, is that really a good thing to seek meaning in everything? It's it's a question that almost seems to be asked to the audience. Like, are you reading too much into what you've seen so far? Do you have you been reading too much into what Travis has been saying about his station his life, his goals, his dreams of banging Sylvia, the statements from all of these bosses, Dr. Peace's relationship with his daughter, Shinobu being spared? Like, are you overthinking your ideas and opinions on that? And above all, this idea that the game itself is something that needs to be questioned. That like it's a game. Who the fuck cares what it means? Like Travis is in essence just sort of a casual video game player. Like he doesn't care about the overarching themes or ideas driving the work. Like he just wants to kill motherfuckers and become number one. So essentially, the opening to this fight is a sort of establishing that Holly and Travis have very, very different approaches to being assassins. Holly is seemingly very much more experienced. She's far more philosophical, while Travis is someone that actually enjoys what he does. He actually does think that she's overthinking things, and it's a bad thing for little girls to be thinking about things like this. And the entire thing results in the end of the fight, in which Travis wins, and they essentially realize that they're not so different after all. In a sort of weird, twisted way, they sort of admit their attraction to each other. Of course, Travis was interested to begin with, but in the end, Holly too admits that she likes him before she decides to commit suicide via grenade in her mouth. Her head explodes. She's dead. Completely out of nowhere. Really heart wrenching moment. And it it's kind of interesting why again the game doesn't really explain why she does this. She gives some vague statement as to like, oh, assassins must die when they lose, and then she apologizes, never forget me, and then she decides to commit suicide. It's such a weird mixed signal sort of thing. Like, you would think if you were into someone you'd want to stay alive for their sake, but Holly in a way sort of values her role as an assassin over this idea that she could ever live a normal life in a way. Like, that's kind of a reoccurring theme throughout all of this, is that like no one involved in the UAA can leave and ever leave a normal life. Like, if you ever get into the UAA, there's only one way out: you get fucking killed. If you lose a UAA fight, you have to die. And it's weird that Holly it's really weird that like Holly puts it this way, considering we've already seen Shinobu get by without getting killed. But it's just, again, the whole Shinobu thing is kind of confusing for a whole lot of reasons. But like, Sylvia just lets that slide. Like, it's so weird considering everything else that happens in this game. Like, it's kind of odd that Shinobu is given a free pass when it comes to like getting defeated. Like, she doesn't have to die. Like, whenever another assassin loses in the series, but Travis doesn't want to kill them for whatever reason, like, something comes up that forces them to die. Like, Ryuji is killed, Let's Shake is killed, and Holly kills herself. It's like, I'm not sure what to make of it in a lot of ways. Like, in some ways it's like contradictory, but in other ways it feels like you might be missing something. You know what I mean? It feels like you might be misunderstanding something or forgetting to mention something. Like, again, Holly is a fantastic character for a lot of reasons. Honestly, like, out of all the cast members that haven't reappeared yet, a lot of characters have reappeared in subsequent games, including Shinobu, Bad Girl, Destroy Man. Out of all the characters that have not reappeared, I would really, really like Holly to return in No More Heroes 3. I think she's a great design. You know, you don't often see like women with prosthetic limbs in fucking media like this, and seeing how cool she is. I noticed while fighting this boss again that she actually uses a shovel, predating Shovel Knight by like 7 years. So she is the original Shovel Knight. Is that the real lore of Holly Summers? Could she be like the daughter of Shovel Knight and Shield Knight? No. I'm sure there's some conspiracy out there, but anyway, like, the character is great. I love her. I love fighting her. I love her philosophical ramblings. I love the way she ends. Like, in a lot of ways, like, Holly Summers is peak No More Heroes. Like, she's a great, interesting character that has an interesting, engaging conversation with our protagonist that really makes you think about the goings, about what's happening in this world, what's happening with this story, what's happening with these characters. Like, it's amazing how Holly is introduced and is killed off within 10 minutes, and yet she leaves such an impact. Like, it's phenomenal how No More Heroes, like, I think I've mentioned this before in other videos, but all of these characters have one cutscene where you first meet them, and then a cutscene showing what happens when you kill them, and that's basically it. Like, other than that, you don't really have a lot of insight into who these people are. You can speculate, you can argue with people. Like, I remember back in the day, people used to argue that Bad Girl was Dr. Peace's daughter, which I said was completely ridiculous, and I was right. Like, you can argue about it, but like, in a lot of ways, there's a lot about No More Heroes that we still don't actually know. Like, Holly Summers, like, we don't know her background. Like, we don't know like how she lost her leg, right? We don't know why she decided to commit suicide. We don't know her interest. Like, she describes herself as an academic. According to her bio in the in-game cards that you can unlock, she has like a background as a model, which is kind of ridiculous considering the fact that she doesn't have a fucking leg. I find it really hard to believe. She's cute as fuck, don't get me wrong, but she is missing her left leg. It's not really elaborated on, but it's again, I can't emphasize this enough. Like, the character designs of these characters are just phenomenal. They're so striking. I love basically everything about Holly. In a lot of ways, playing this again, I do feel as if she would have been a way better partner to Travis than Sylvia ended up being. Like, again, this is kind of the point the series is getting at. Like, Travis and Sylvia really, really aren't a good fit for each other, like, at all. Like, Travis Strikes Again, I think, kind of goes into a little bit more detail on this. But like in this one, like if Holly hadn't committed suicide, if she hadn't decided to fucking kill herself, she might have been able to like find something in her life worth living for. Like again, she says she likes to fantasize. Like why not live a real fucking life? Again, we don't know. Okay, we don't know what's driving this character. A lot of what drives this character. We know she's number 6 and that's about it. Like we don't even know a whole lot about how she feels about the UAA, right? Like she was completely willing to kill Travis. Like she went into that fight expecting to kill him or die herself. And when he wouldn't kill her, when she pointed that out, ooh, did I not actually point that out? Yeah, ooh, I've been going for 10 minutes. I didn't even mention that critical point. Wow, I skipped a point there. So when Travis first defeats Holly Summers, when she can't fight anymore, he's in a position where he can make the finishing blow and he can't do it. And Holly immediately calls him out on this. Like, and this is kind of where she admits she kind of likes him because like, I have a thing for men like you. Holly calls him out on it. Like, what does she say exactly? Let me check. Essentially, what she says is that this is not mercy. You can't kill a woman. You are less than a thug. You will never make it to the top, which is kind of interesting because we know that the top 3 members of the UAA, number 1, 2, and 3, are all women. So she kind of has a point there. So she could be completely serious. Is that like you can't get to the top because everyone above me is a fucking woman? But I think the bigger point though is how she sort of like treats him regarding this. Like she gets so angry over not being killed. Like this is not mercy. And then she becomes like, really passive and submissive and almost kind of like empathetic. It's kind of an interesting contrast where she goes from you are pathetic, you're weak, and then immediately just turns into like, but I kind of like that about you. It's kind of a weird sort of double take. Like, which is it? Does she fucking like him or not? Like, she thinks he's weak, but she kind of likes that about him. Like, does she like the fact that he isn't willing to kill her? And she even says, like, when she's just about to kill herself, that, like, when you hesitated, I felt your embrace. Like, it kind of almost does come off like she's, she would like to fall in love. She would like to live a normal life, but she feels as if it's not really possible for her because of everything she's gone through. This is the only way it could end. Like, fight until you die. Fight until you die. Fight in these ranked matches for Sylvia Crystal until you die. Like, let your name be completely forgotten. Completely true, by the way. That's completely literally, by the way, because Travis never actually learns Holly Summers' name. Like, he just refers to her as number 6 throughout the entire thing. And he has to ask Sylvia what her name is. And Sylvia is about to, like, talk a little bit more about her, like, Holly Summers, born in, but he interrupts her and says that, like, well, no, I just wanted to learn her name. In a way, I think Travis feels that, like, if he learns anything more about her than that, he might, like, fall out of love with her. Like, that's kind of my feeling on it. Like, if you know too much about a girl, that takes away the romance out of it. It takes away, like, the tragedy. And in a way, like, he kind of wants to feel that pain, that anguish. Like, he doesn't want to feel as if her death didn't impact him the way it did. You know what I mean? It's kind of, again, this might be just a little bit of speculation on my part, but it's Again, a lot of what again this I think this is what makes No More Heroes so brilliant in a way, in its own ways, that like there's so much of it that's up to interpretation. You know what I mean? Because I can 100% tell you, like everyone has their own impressions and ideas on what things are supposed to mean. Like just look at anyone else, like anyone else speculating on like the meaning of No More Heroes, the motivation of the characters. You're gonna get wildly different analyses, right? Like you're gonna get wildly different ideas and like fixations, right? You have people like challenging the concept of capitalism. I'll have to like go through a couple of theories of other people's theories, so like you know what I'm talking about. But like interpretation is a big part of what makes this series work. Like the player involvement, your own life experiences, your own engagement in these characters and story is what makes it so memorable. Like it is applicable to so many different life experiences and worldviews, and I think that's kind of what makes it its own masterpiece, right? Like not so much that it's brimming with high quality, thought provoking content, but more like it sets the stage for these ideas to take root in your mind and sort of grow of their own accord and sort of become their own thing in a way, like letting your imagination fill in the blanks and become something spectacular, right? Become something like your own personal sort of a fantasy, your own idea of what this world and these characters are like. You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty sure Suda doesn't actually like think that, like, you know, Holly and Travis, yeah, they could have been happy together. Like, no, it's just he came up with these interesting interactions, and then we can sort of infer what happens. Like we can sort of have our own ideas. I'm sure there's someone else out there who says that like Holly and Travis could never have worked, right? They never could have been together because they're too different, right? Like she calls him less than a thug. How can you have like that kind of a relationship blossom from that? Like love cannot bloom on a battlefield. I think we all have this. I think Otacon and Sniper Wolf kind of established this in the world of video games. Okay, like you can't do that. But again, it's up for debate. It is extremely debatable, even with like No More Heroes 3. Assuming Holly Summers is brought back to life, which again, I reiterate is very, very possible. Like No More Heroes has become like Dragon Ball at this point. Like we might not get any real conclusive answers to this. Like even now, we still have no idea who the fuck killed Shinobu's father, why she reacted the way she did, even though she's been like one of the most prevalent characters in the subsequent games, right? So we still know very, very little about Shinobu. Like in a lot of ways, very little about Travis and Sylvia themselves. You know what I mean? Like we have an idea, but it's so ridiculous in a lot of ways. Like you know there has to be a lot more to the story, right? We're gonna have to see like how this if these questions are ever resolved. My assumption is that they never will be, and in a lot of ways, I don't think they should be. This is something I've been noticing with a lot of these long-running franchises. Harry Potter, for example, there needs to come a time when a long-running franchise needs to end. Like you need to acknowledge that the franchise is being controlled by people who don't know what to do with it and are only doing it to make money. They have no passion. They have no creativity. There's nowhere really for the story to go, but they're still going to milk it anyway, right? Like we've seen this with Star Wars. We're seeing this with like the Harry Potter sequel movies. We're seeing this with like all sorts of stuff in media. Like franchises just refuse to die because they have an audience who will just eat them up no matter what because they're popular for whatever reason. Like Harry Potter being because of how popular it is, will continue getting terrible multimedia spin-offs, right? That increasingly just alienate its core fan base. You know what I mean? I feel as if No More Heroes 3 is probably going to be the final one. I can't imagine there being another one after this. I'm not sure if I want there to be another one after this. I already don't feel like there's ever going to be a true sequel to the original No More Heroes. In a lot of ways, I kind of view No More Heroes 2 and Travis Strikes Again as their own thing. Like I kind of like viewing No More Heroes, the original, in its own vacuum. I don't like considering what happens in the sequels to explain character motivations or like talking about that. Like they're their own thing in a lot of ways. They have their own ideas. They have they have their own things going on. I don't want the sequels to detract from like how I feel about the original. Like in a lot of ways, I don't want answers to what Holly has gone through. I don't want to know like what she thought of Travis. In a lot of ways, your imagination is a lot more. My imagination can do a lot more than anything that Suda himself could do, and it's kind of remarkable. It's kind of a remarkable thing. Again, this is one of the reasons I love the series so much. It's much like Holly itself. I will always love its soul.